Today, we're going to crack open a passionate, urgent, and really personal letter from the Apostle Paul. He's writing to a community he started in the super busy, cosmopolitan city of Corinth. And this church, well, they were brilliant, absolutely gifted, but they were also completely tearing themselves apart from the inside. So here's our game plan. We're going to follow Paul's logic as he tackles the church's problems one by one, from these deep divisions to moral chaos, all before he reveals the one thing he believes can actually heal them. And this is the core problem right from the start. Paul begins by saying, hey, I thank God for you guys. You're not lacking in any gift. I mean, they were talented, they were smart, they were well-spoken, but, and this is a big but, that very giftedness was becoming a source of arrogance and pride, and it was causing some serious conflict.
Paul does not waste any time. Seriously, after a quick hello, he gets straight to the biggest, most urgent problem. The church is fractured. He says he's heard reports that there are contentions, or basically huge arguments going on among them.
So what was going on? Well, the whole community was basically splintering into fan clubs. You had some people saying, I'm on Team Paul, because he founded the church. Others were like, nope, I'm with Apollos, he's a better speaker. Then you had the Cephas or Peter group. They were creating these rival factions based on their favorite leaders, and they were completely missing the point. So Paul just cuts through all the noise with this one devastating question. It's designed to just stop them in their tracks, to make them see how absolutely absurd their factions are. He's like, was Paul crucified for you? Of course not.
And Paul's correction is simple, but it's really profound. He reminds them that people like him and Apollos and Peter, they're just servants. One guy plants a seed, another one waters it, but it's God who makes it grow. The focus should never be on the human messenger, but on the one message that unites them all.
Okay, let's move on, because this focus on status and personality, it started to bleed into everything else. It infected their ideas about wisdom and even their personal behavior, creating this toxic culture of arrogance and just moral confusion. And here you can really see the main conflict. The Corinthians, living in a Greek city, they valued what we'd call worldly wisdom. Amazing speeches, philosophical debates, high status. But Paul argues that God's wisdom, well, it looks like foolishness to the world. It's not found in power and eloquence, but in the humility and weakness of the cross. Paul then takes this brand new kind of wisdom and applies it directly to their ethical problems. Some people in the church were arguing that what they did with their bodies didn't really matter spiritually. Paul hits back with this powerful idea. Your bodies aren't just your own property to do whatever you want with. They're sacred space, a temple, and what one person does actually affects the entire community.
Which brings us to another area where their arrogance was causing huge problems. This church was full of incredible spiritual gifts, but instead of using them to build each other up, they were using them as status symbols. The church gatherings had turned into this chaotic showcase of individual talent.
And Paul lists this amazing range of gifts, everything from deep wisdom and healing to prophecy and speaking in tongues. The potential in that community was incredible, but how they were using it, well, it was a mess, because everyone was competing to prove that their gift was the most important. To fix this, Paul introduces one of his most famous metaphors ever, the community as a body. The eye can't look at the hand and say, I don't need you. Every single part, from the ones you see to the ones you don't, is absolutely essential. Diversity isn't the problem here. It's the whole point. It's what makes the body work. So after diagnosing all their problems, the factions, the arrogance, the misuse of gifts, Paul kind of pauses, and he tells them he's about to show them a more excellent way. This is it. This is his grand, unifying solution to everything. And here it is. He makes this totally radical claim that even the most spectacular spiritual gifts are utterly worthless without charity, or, as we usually translate it, love. You could have mountain-moving faith, you could speak like an angel, give away everything you own, but if you don't have love, he says, you are nothing. It all counts for zero. What's so fascinating is that Paul doesn't define this love as some fuzzy emotion. He defines it by what it does. And if you look closely at this list of actions, it's a direct critique of how the Corinthians were acting. They were envious, they were boastful, they were puffed up. Love is the exact opposite of everything they were doing wrong. And this right here is the key. Love isn't just another item on the list of spiritual gifts. No, it's the framework. It's like the operating system that makes all the other gifts actually function for the good of the community, not for the glory of one person. So let's get to Paul's final argument.
This is where he grounds everything he's just said about unity, wisdom, and love in one single, non-negotiable event. Without this, he argues, their entire faith is just a pointless exercise.
You see, some people in Corinth had started to doubt the resurrection. So what does Paul do? He doesn't give them a philosophical argument. He gives them a list of eyewitnesses. He just methodically lays out who saw the risen Christ, from Peter to the 12 apostles to a crowd of over 500 people. And he adds that a lot of them are still alive and can be questioned.
And then he raises the stakes dramatically. He basically says, if Christ was not resurrected as a real, historical event, then we apostles are liars, your faith is futile, you're still stuck in your sins, and honestly, we should be pitted more than anyone on earth. Everything hinges on this.
And this all leads to this triumphant conclusion. Because Christ is risen, Paul declares, death itself has lost its power. It's been defeated. And that is the ultimate victory that gives meaning to their lives, purpose to their community, and a real hope that goes way beyond their current squabbles and struggles.
In the end, this ancient letter really forces us to ask a question that is just as relevant today as it was back in Corinth. In our own families, our workplaces, our societies. How do we navigate that tension between our individual gifts, our rights, and our ambitions, and the health and unity of the community as a whole?